Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Farkas, and on today's episode, my conversation with Maddie Brandon, a big-time content creator whose travels have taken her inside the walls of helicopters, cozy cabins, and luxurious resorts across North America. But Maddie will be the first to tell you that while her life looks glamorous on social media, it often doesn't feel that way in real life. That's one of many issues content creators face, and Maddie is on a one-woman mission to flip the influencer world upside down. Through her business, The Creator Outpost, she gives content creators the tools Maddie wishes she had had when she started creating just 2 years ago. Rather than chase trends, viral videos, and brand deals, Maddie wants creators to focus more on what really matters, making a positive impact and telling stories that move people. I know Maddie on a personal level, and I believe deeply in her ability to give the creator industry the facelift it desperately needs. She's on a meteoric rise after 2 years. She has a maniacal work ethic, and at 27 years old, I think she's a big name to watch on the Seacoast for years to come. I also know that as talented as Maddie is on camera, she's even better off of it. A skilled photographer, web designer, and social strategist, she also helps travel and adventure businesses grow their brands through her other company, Kindling Studio. But at her core, Maddie is a creator, and she often posts jaw-dropping visuals to her 14,000 followers on Instagram, an audience she's gained from videos documenting her stays at luxurious Airbnbs, where she received free trips in exchange for killer content. But for now, she's scaling back on the travel stuff so she can instead stay home, right here on the Seacoast. Seacoast Stories is presented by Samonas Realty and JOBTALK LLC. And on today's episode, Maddie gives small business owners the blueprint for winning on social media. Plus, how much money influencers actually make, Maddie's time running social for Smuttynose Brewing, and why she's not afraid to be cringy. All of that and more on today's episode. But first, Maddie didn't intend on living on the Seacoast. After growing up in Connecticut and running track at UNH, Maddie, like many of us who grew up in the Northeast, wanted to move as far away from New England as she could. So when her first employer, Four Seasons Hotels, asked Maddie where she would like to work, she chose the one elusive place that so many New Englanders dream of escaping to. Except because of the pandemic, things didn't quite go according to plan. It's been a constant theme on this podcast for us New Englanders. There's something about California that is so elusive and alluring. And for a lot of people, they've just got up and moved to California really without a plan, but just to find themselves there. So I was wondering, the prospect of moving to California, what did that mean to you?
I think at the time when I got the job with Four Seasons, I remember one of the questions in an interview being like, where would you want us to send you? And I've always been just drawn to that idea of like starting over somewhere. I don't have some like dark, mysterious past that I'm running away from, but like I've just loved the idea of starting like a new story, a new life. I've always loved that. So they asked me where I wanted to move, and for whatever reason, I agree. I think a lot of people on the East Coast see California as like this golden, well, it is, yeah, golden place to end up. But yeah, I don't feel that way anymore. I love the East Coast.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave now?
No, I don't think so. Me and the Seacoast kind of found each other in college, and I was like, I can't end up where I went to college. Like, that's not a cool enough story for me. Like, I've always wanted that, like, oh, she moved to Cali and started over. What, like, an awesome thing, like, big risk involved there, because I love big risks. But yeah, like, I just ended up here because the job got canceled, and me and my boyfriend settled here. We were thinking it was going to be temporary, and I honestly can't really see myself anywhere else. So
really?
Yeah.
Why?
I think the Seacoast has everything that I love about it. Like I grew up where I was driving distance from small beaches, and I love that about the Seacoast. I love that we're really close to the mountains, and I'm still a driving distance away from Connecticut where I grew up. So for me, it's like, I feel like it's my own town. I've developed really great relationships and connections here. And once you make those roots, it's kind of hard to imagine yourself anywhere else.
I think that's probably something a lot of the listeners can empathize with, myself included. You mentioned your boyfriend, Rob. Now, tell me how you guys met and moved in together.
Okay, so I love telling this story. I found out that Rob had a crush on me, and we met in college, but I found out that Rob had a crush on me, and I waited probably like 3 months for this kid to make a move on me, and he never did. And like everything else in my life, I can confidently say I don't like waiting that long. So I made the first move on Rob in Libby's Bar and Grill at UNH. I bought him a beer, and the rest was kind of history. But after only, I want to say like 2 months of dating, we had to move in together because COVID hit. He lived in Mass. I grew up in Connecticut. I wasn't really intending on going back to Connecticut. I was like, obviously had just thought I was going to move to California. So I was planning on just living in Portsmouth. But Rob and I kind of talked and we were like, we're on a good path of this relationship. Like
after 2 months?
After 2 months, like I really felt like he was my person, and I wasn't expecting him to say the same thing, but he was about to move to California with me. I think that is the bigger part of the conversation.
And that's not a red flag to you?
No, not really.
If a girl wanted to move to California with me after 2 months of dating, I'd be like, get the F away from me.
And that's what I was expecting, but we just kind of clicked. And the most hilarious thing about it is that he is not someone to do that. Like, that man was crushing hard. He is not a get up and move my life kind of person at all.
Do you think had you not bought the beer for him that he would have ever made a move?
I think he would have eventually. We're getting recorded, so I'll say he will have done that.
Smart move. Okay, so you move in together after 2 months during peak COVID. What are you doing for work at this point, if anything?
So yeah, I found a job at a flower shop. They were one of the only places that was hiring at the time. And I think it was just for like front cashier position. And I couldn't think of a more beautiful place to spend those crazy, scary, what I thought at the time was months, but it ended up being quite some time, as we know. So yeah, I kind of found myself in that role.
Okay. And then, as often happens, especially during crazy times, you end up taking on more roles under your one position. So what more did you end up doing there?
Yeah, so I started helping them with their social media. And I think that that was the beginning of me seeing what impact social media can have on a small business. I wasn't making them like viral or anything like that, but I helped them consistently post their flower arrangements, their wedding work. And like, I remember having people ordering based on a photo that they saw posted on Instagram. And I just in those small ways was making an impact with their social. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that's kind of what started it for me in the social media for other people kind of realm. Yeah.
What was your relationship to social media like prior, just as a college kid going through it?
Yeah. So it's always kind of been like my personal digital diary. I grew up with social media. Like it came out, I believe when I was in middle school, I think was Facebook. And then shortly after was Instagram. I remember getting that and just posting whatever I wanted. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I think that at the time, it kind of felt like I was able to be someone a little bit more than maybe how I felt in school. So it kind of provided like that voice that I think I was craving a little bit.
What do you mean by that? Be someone?
I think that I've always kind of had a hard time fitting in. And so whether this is the right way of coping or not, building up my Instagram profile to be all the things about me that I loved about me, which sounds really selfish, but sometimes you need that, especially when you don't feel like you fit in. It kind of allowed me to see myself in the way that I wish others were seeing me. That is a very deep way to say that, but
why didn't you feel like you were fitting in?
I was kind of an awkward kid. I think I've always been a little bit, as I'm sure Troy will say multiple times throughout this podcast recording, cringy. I've been a little bit like that for my whole life.
No. Coolest girl in Portsmouth. I stand by it. Okay, so you've always been cringy, but you eventually started leaning into it.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think when you're kind of the odd one out a little bit growing up, I got used to that. And then as social media became that outlet for me, that's kind of where that started showing up. I was already used to kind of being like the odd one out and like doing things that other people weren't doing. And that's funny to say because now everyone's doing social.
Right.
But I just remember I was like one of the only people growing up that posted like every day. That's a lot for like a middle schooler.
Do you ever go back to, I've subjected myself to this, the first posts on Instagram that I made in 2011 or something, and it'll just be a photo of me on the basketball court, caption like #basketball.
Yes, definitely. I have some really embarrassing, like inspirational quotes that I had no business like relating to at the time. But
remember when filters came out?
Yeah.
This was just the most revolutionary thing that you could change the color of the photo.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great time. Like I missed that Instagram.
I'm telling you, 2010 to 13 social media, Twitter, Instagram was so fun.
Yeah.
When it was really just your friends that you were seeing posts from. It was in chronological order, no algorithm based here. And then there was always indirect tweeting. Oh, who is this person tweeting about right now? And then it would come back into school, all the drama. It was fun.
I think people found out that you can make money from it, and that changed everything.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Pretty much with anything that's fun, once you get into the monetization model of it, everything changes. And now here we are. The amount of conversations I have with people that, I work in media with people with big followings. Every single one of them says behind closed doors, God, I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish I didn't have to create stuff because there's so much extra stuff that comes with it. It's exhausting, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah. And I know as like a social media manager, like I get clients that come to me and they're like, if I could delete social media off my phone, I would. And honestly, like, I don't know that I've ever actually felt that way because
really?
Yeah. And I know that is unique. I think that social media can be whatever you want it to be to you and like how it fits into your life. And like I said, I started this as just like a form of self-expression. And like, if I've ever had like a major shift in my life or like a milestone, like I'm going to be posting about it on my Instagram. It just feels good to me to be able to like share that stuff. But so like, I think for other people that see it as more of a grind and a hamster wheel, and I totally get that. But for me, it's just never felt that way, that it's like, yes, is it draining? Yes, is it exhausting? But I wouldn't ever want to just delete them off my phone.
Wow. All right, let's get back to you. So you're working in the flower shop, you handle their social, and you realize the impact that it can have on small businesses. And so then you actually parlayed that experience right into an actual social media job at a well-known Seacoast brand, Smuttynose Brewing, which when you told me, Maddie, that you had this job, by the way, my mind was actually blown because I couldn't believe that a place like Smuttynose actually hired for a full-time social media marketing manager.
Yeah, that was insane. I am so grateful for that job. So when I started deciding that I wanted to get into marketing and social media and like would really like to get more of that long-term career growth job, I looked on the job listing sites and I remember seeing in-house social media manager and content creator for Smuttynose Brewing Company. And I saw that job posting so many times in my search. I applied to all the other like entry-level things. This post from Smutty said like 4+ years of experience. And obviously, as never having like an actual big girl job before, feeling like, okay, I don't want to waste this person's time. I'm not going to apply for that. Like, I'm just going to apply to all the entry level ones. Did not get much back. Finally, it was still up, right? It's been like a month at least. I applied to it and I got like an immediate call, and then I went in for an interview and I made the CEO laugh in the interview, and I was like, I think I got that job. And then I ended up getting it.
No way.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Something about sales where it was like, oh, we would really like to get our product in here. And I was like, oh, I can make that happen. And he like laughed. He loved the energy because I wasn't even getting hired for sales, but I was like, oh, I can make that happen.
Yeah. And I'm sure you did make a lot of sales happen from your work on social media.
Yeah.
So what exactly did the job entail?
So it was the coolest job ever. I got a lot of free beer. It was amazing. I hope that's not like illegal to say, but I don't think so. So yeah, I basically took all their content for them. So that was annoying the brewers because you always see those videos on social that are like, oh no, like the social media person's coming. That was me. So I would like be like, hello, I need you to help me with a funny social media video. And they wanted like nothing to do with me. I ended up having the best relationship with them. I think so. I don't know how they feel about it, but so that was part of the job, was just getting like the faces behind Smuttynose in front view, which is very important. And then I was taking product photography of the beers in like a lifestyle way, or if they like had a new release that had fruit characteristics, like I would do this whole really cool, like having the fruit cut up and like real, like to my level at the time, product photography for them, which was really cool. They trusted me with a lot with that. And then also running their social media.
Yeah. It sounds like you had a lot of creative leeway.
Yes,
That's
for sure.
so cool. So how did you know that what you were doing on social for Smutty was actually converting to beer sales?
Yeah, so I think it's tough for a company as big as Smuttynose. It's hard to track that. We had a marketing director at the time that did a lot of that tracking, but my job was mostly just keeping us consistent and visible, and like having the engagement from the community was like the biggest part of that job. Like getting people excited about new beer releases, because that goes a long way. Being able to share that there's like really good promos for holidays and like any sales we were doing in the tasting room. So stuff like that was like just being able to put out there. I was like the message board for the company. Yeah.
Right. For perhaps the business owners listening, I think a common struggle, especially for smaller business owners where you're often strapped for time. How do you think about choosing which platforms you need to be posting on?
I have a lot of unpopular opinions with like how small business owners should do social. I think that the most important thing is just how are you actually going to be showing up? Like what's going to make it so simple that you strapped for time and already overwhelmed with everything else? What's going to be the simple version of social media marketing that you are actually able to sustainably do consistently? And I think that that's where I get a little bit frustrated with a lot of the noise in the social media space, because a lot of them are talking to companies like Smutty or bigger, like much bigger, who have an in-house team. But you're not going to have that if you're just like a tiny mom and pop, or you're like a solopreneur or something like that. So I think like the most important thing is just finding where those customers are going to be. If it's like you already have a community around your brand, I would say Instagram is the best place to be, especially if you're targeting that younger to like Gen Z to like millennial. I'd say like erring on the side of millennial for Instagram. But the most important thing about Instagram is cultivating community. And I think Instagram, in my opinion, is the place to do that versus TikTok.
Why?
TikTok shows your content, not necessarily to the people following you. So it's very hard to like have that same community feel. Whereas Instagram, whether it does this well or not at any given time, it's done better with it in the past. And I do believe it's going to get better at it again. Shows your content to your community. And the head of Instagram, they're trying to continue to have Instagram be a place where the most important thing is that community. And I think for small businesses, like that is what you need to focus on. TikTok is great if you like want visibility. If you want visibility and you're trying to get like your brand awareness up and everything like that, which we did for Smuttynose too. But I think for a small business, especially, I'm just thinking of small businesses in the Seacoast, Instagram is like where your foundation for social media should be.
Yeah.
But like the other thing that TikTok is good about is TikTok learns where you're posting from. It is so dialed in of showing that content to those people around you, which a lot of people don't really consider with TikTok because they think of virality. They think of this is going to hit all over the world if this goes viral. But like TikTok does a really good job, even for small businesses, if you're again, like just trying to get visibility, less of that community culturing or nurturing. Like it does a really good job at showing just that locale, the local area, your content. It'll show other people too, but it gets really dialed in. Yeah. The algorithm is really good at that.
Right. Yes. And at this point, seems to be the universal agreement that TikTok's algorithm is better than Instagram's, at least for the moment. Who even knows what the future of TikTok is? A common mistake that I see in social media is people not posting specifically tailored to the platforms. You'll see a lot of people take one vertical video, post the exact same thing, no changes or modifications to Instagram, to LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky, and God knows what. But that's a mistake, right?
That's a mistake. But again, I go back to why I have unpopular opinions on this, because when you are a small business owner, if you are listening to all the different things that is causing more and more work, are you even going to consistently stay posting on social media? Probably not. If you listen to like, you have to do this, there's all these rules around social media versus, let's say you're a small business that doesn't have a lot of capacity, but you can link your Instagram to your Facebook business page, where then every time that you're posting on Instagram, it also is posting to Facebook without any other work. Like I like to think about it like that. And I do the same thing for me, even like with content creation on my platforms. Like what is going to be something that helps me systemize this in a way that I'm not doing like all these different steps just to get one post up, because the value of one post has gone significantly down than what it used to be.
What do you mean?
You used to be able to spend a lot of time on a post and then you would probably see that having a lot more value than you do now. But people are just like, their attention span, what they want to consume has changed so much that if you're spending all this time on one post, you might not see anything come out of that. The most important thing is, what are you doing to be able to remain consistent? Consistency, social media is like a numbers game. Like you need to stay consistent and you need to be like staying consistent for a long period of time. If you're spending all of this time as a small business owner on taking your Instagram videos and optimizing them for every single platform, instead of just being really good at like one or two platforms, I think that's where a lot of people get burnt out very quick.
What's your definition of consistency? You've mentioned that word a lot. It's very important in all forms of content creation, for podcasting and social media as well.
I love this question. So consistency to me is not so much how much you're posting, but it's just remaining really, really honest with like, okay, I'm going to post 3 times a week and I'm going to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday at like 5 p.m. Let's just say. I do that for a lot of my clients. Like I pick like 3 days and like I try to stick to the exact time for those days. And that's like training the algorithm that if people engage with that content at that time, every single time you're posting, like it's going to be showing your content, like it's going to be prepared to show your content at that time, every single time that you're sticking to it. When people are not consistent, that can look like posting 3 times a week for like 2 weeks and then they don't post for like 3 months. And that's not going to be good. And I had a client recently that I just started posting for that literally hadn't been posting for like 3 months. And it took a while to get her content even showing up to people. And that's what we don't want, because then you're just like starting from scratch again and all that work. So that's why like I get frustrated when you need to dial in how you're going to remain visible with consistency of like 3 days a week, if that's what it is, 5 days a week, if that's what it is, and like trying to stick to the same days and the same times. If you can master that, then like that will be the biggest thing for your business.
Yeah, for sure. How do you choose the days and times to post?
So you can do a couple of things. The easiest one, that's probably not like the most dialed in data, but you can just go within your Instagram and go into the analytics and then click on followers. And then at the bottom of that follower screen, it'll say like active days and active times. For most of my clients, that looks like weekdays and then like when people get out of work is a lot of times. But you'll see like a lot of people say different things about that. I think like just learning your account is important, but also, to be honest, in my experience, as long as you just choose those times and stick with them, I don't know that it makes sense to be that focused on like getting that particular. There's been times where I've tried to like go off of like Sprout Social, which is like a big industry leader, releases like this social media wrap up of like best times to post, best days to post. There was so many times that for my clients and for myself, I tried to stick to that so much. My content tanked because what happens is like I had already trained my algorithm to show my content at different times and different days. So yes, like if I like kept up with those, like maybe I'd see a difference. But I think the most important thing is like, when are you actually going to be able to post? Are you scheduling your stuff? Just keep scheduling it for like the same time, same day, and just like stick with it. I just think that people tend to overthink social a little bit too much. And that's when they end up not posting enough.
Yeah. What do you consider a successful post?
I would say a successful post is one that's relatively high quality. I would say that depending on your marketing goals, like if you are someone that is trying to reach new audiences, that would look like most likely a reel because those have the highest visibility still. If you're like someone like Lovebirds, like I came up with this example. If you're someone like Lovebirds who monthly has new donut flavor releases, they do a really good job of doing a photo carousel of like their new flavors every month. And people look forward to that. That is an incredibly valuable post for them because people are hanging on to like see what the next month's flavor releases are going to be. But I think that a high quality post, so the content itself is high quality, you're grabbing people's attention in the first like 3 seconds, which we can go into that more.
Would love to.
Okay. So you hear this a lot on social, but hooking a viewer in the first, like they say 3 seconds, I would argue it might even be less, with either a visual hook, a auditory hook, or something that like when they're reading it, it makes them want to learn more.
Reading on the video.
Right. Reading like text on screen, which is ideally you mix at least 2 of those.
Okay.
So for a lot of my content, I'll try to find an audio that you already like, you scroll onto this reel and it's like upbeat, it like grabs your attention because what you're trying to do is maximize the watch time.
Right. That's the most important thing because in these algorithms, you're trying to get your videos recommended and show up in people's feeds. And for that to happen, the apps want you, the consumer, watching the video as long as possible so that you stay on their app as long as possible.
Correct.
So the goal of the video is to not only hook for the first 2 seconds or less, but to get them to then be enticed to watch the entire thing, which will then surface your content to more eyeballs.
Correct. Yeah, that watch time and then like anything that you can do that would be like shareable. And that comes down to, honestly, you got to think about what you want to be sharing with your friends. And a lot of times that's something you think is funny, something you think is entertaining. And honestly, like the most powerful thing at this point is like storytelling and like having people feel like they relate to what you're posting about.
I've definitely noticed that. The stuff that I post, just even on my personal page, on my stories, the stuff where I get vulnerable, I'll see that my analytics, 40 people shared this. And I'm like, why are people sharing this thing about my diabetes to their friends? But probably because it's good storytelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works.
Definitely. I'm not surprised you're a good storyteller. But I think too that that's been a major shift and that's a huge trend in 2025 is like the value of storytelling. And this is presented in many ways right now, but a lot of big time creators that have blown up from this are having some sort of almost like their own TV show. So they'll be like episode 1, episode 2. There's this one girl that's a nutritionist and she started kind of showing more of like her life. She like built her platform on like her recipes, but she decided she's tired of that. So she's going to start showing her life. She has blown up because every Friday she's putting out a video on a Friday about updating what happened that week. And I think that stuff in the beginning, you're like, does anyone care about this? But if you're presenting it in a way that's storytelling, you kind of do want to know like what's up in this person's life. Nothing that she's doing is groundbreaking, but the way that she tells the story is like what draws people in.
Yeah. And I'll just add, my guess as to why storytelling is blowing up right now is because as we are now in the age of, the post-COVID age of isolation and loneliness and depression that social media has been a big driver of, and AI, and now with all these like, am I even communicating with a real person right now? We're kind of getting on edge. Like, did you write that or did AI write that? And so I think storytelling is probably the hardest thing for AI to do. It's the hardest thing to fake a good story. And I think we are craving right now as human beings good stories. Storytelling has been a part of the human existence since language was first invented. And it's obviously taken many different iterations since then. But at the heart of human beings is the desire to hear good stories, and creating in social media is just like such an incredible avenue for that. And so to your point, yeah, I think the people who can really tell stories and make people feel things is huge.
Yeah. And going along with that, like for a long time, there was the pressure to hop on trends. It was always about trends. Like make sure you're doing the trends, recreating the trends. Like that's going to help you gain visibility, no matter if you're a business or a content creator or influencer. I would say that trends, I wouldn't say they're dead. I think that they are still very valuable for gaining visibility, but followers don't mean as much as they used to. And I think that if you're trying to make money from brand deals or even just like for the benefit of your business, like drawing in more business, I think that having people connected to the people behind the account is what is the most important. And like having that engagement and showing that you have a community behind you, that's like what makes the difference nowadays.
Quick aside, you spend a lot of time in Seacoast social media, I'm sure. Does any business come to mind for you on the Seacoast that like this business, they are crushing it?
Yeah, I would say, and when I say crushing it, I do believe that they are crushing it in many ways. I don't know how their revenue is.
I wonder if we're thinking the same thing. You first.
Maybe. Honestly, I think that Jennifer and Lainey and Lou come to mind because I think that Jennifer not only has become kind of not authority, but like a leader for sure.
Authoritative voice in the area.
In female entrepreneurship. Maybe that's just because I aspire to her a little bit, but like I do think she does a phenomenal job of like making sure that that's who behind Lainey and Lou. And I think that like they just closed their Exeter location. She wrote up the most powerful statement about that and the decision for it, letting the community know that like how much they meant to them when they were open. And I think like stuff like that, like that's cultivating a community. That's cultivating people that are now going to visit that Portsmouth location, even though that's a longer drive for them.
Okay, you want to know my pick?
Yes.
Flamingo's Coffee Bar, for sure. I think Mackenzie, the owner there, is a genius. I don't think she would ever tell you that, but if I could vote some type of rising star award or someone who's going to open 10 businesses on the Seacoast who crush it, I would vote Kenzie from Flamingo's. First of all, Flamingo's is just so tailored to social media. The shops in Hampton and Exeter, the colors, the flights, the latte flights of all these crazy flavors and combinations that they have, perfectly tailored to social media. They do an incredible job of creating pent-up demand and toying with the imagination of like, God, what does a Frosted Flakes cinnamon toast crunch flight taste like? I have no idea. And so they'll have people, because of social media, driving from Vermont to New Hampshire just to try out these coffee flights. And obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with the disgustingly pro-women thing that like they made the decision to lean into that last fall and to continue leaning into it. I had a discussion with Kenzie. When is it too much? When do you decide to back off? And she said, people keep buying the stuff and there's continued outrage over this. They keep getting bad reviews and they keep posting them and they keep selling shirts and keep getting people to the store and continue donating 20% of those disgustingly pro-women profits to local women's organizations. So Flamingos, keep it up. You're crushing it.
And they're diving into something that's not even anything we touched on, but using social media to not only drive business, but to build your brand. She's building a brand. That is now like a huge part of what makes their brand captivate their audience and bring people in is that statement that they are sticking with.
Exactly. Yeah. And this isn't going to be a dig at Flamingos. I'm a coffee enthusiast. Now, I'm also diabetic. I haven't had their lattes, and that's their thing. So maybe my opinion doesn't matter as much, but their coffee for me is meh. Love La Melita's coffee, love Port City's coffee, Blue Harbor for the coffee purists. Like, I love those places, but I still go to Flamingos all the time because their marketing is so good, and my brand's loyalty to them and my desire to go want to support them is off the charts. And so that just goes to say, like, you can have your products can be meh, but if your marketing is incredible, that can really drive sales as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that brand building is huge. And like even creators, like content creators, the power of building a personal brand, even if you don't feel like you have like an incredible story or a position to really like teach anyone anything, like starting early and just like being known for like your values and like how you view the world. And like a lot of that is like what I try to do with my own account is like, here's what's going on in my life. This is like how I view it. And like, if this is relatable to you, like great, that's the point. But just like having people where when they think of certain things, they're like, oh, like Maddie does a good job with that. Or like Maddie thinks that way about this. Like I feel closer to her knowing that. Like that's just an example, but like being able to build brands as a human being is pretty cool just based on like you and who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's like something that's not like you don't think about social media as providing you that opportunity as much as we should, I guess.
Coming up, Maddie takes us inside what life as a content creator is really like. But first, real estate is a hot topic around these parts, if you didn't know. And if you're still trying to buy a home in New Hampshire without Samonas Realty, that's like trying to get dinner at Cornicello without a reservation. It's bold, but you'll probably be out of luck, which I know from experience. Samonas Realty has been helping people find homes around the Seacoast since before Jumpin' Jays started shucking oysters. Andrew, John, and the entire Samonas team, they know every nook and cranny of Portsmouth, Rye, Dover, and beyond. Yeah, even that secret back road to the Golden Egg that only locals know about. Are you looking for a backyard big enough to host a cornhole tournament and a Seacoast Stories gathering? They got you. Are you a first-time buyer? Are you downsizing? Or do you just want to live closer to Liar's Bench so you never miss trivia night again? Samonas Realty's got the keys for whatever you want, literally. So if you're house hunting on the Seacoast, skip the Zillow spiral and give Samonas Realty a call. They'll help you find a home so fast, you'll be calling Cup of Joe, your neighborhood coffee shop, in no time. Samonas Realty, real estate with a real local vibe. To learn more, just visit SamonasGroup.com. Another person who is beloved around these parts is past podcast guest, Crystal Hicks of JOBTALK. JOBTALK is a career consulting firm, and one conversation with her may just change the entire trajectory of your career. How do I know that? Because a close friend of mine, she spoke with Crystal just once, and after applying a small piece of advice she received to her job search, my friend landed a senior marketing role at a very recognizable company, which not only ended her months-long job search, but also got her a higher salary than she was expecting. Jobs are Crystal's job. They have been for 17 years, and she's simply the best in the area when it comes to helping people of all industries navigate their careers. If you would like to be one of Crystal's 400 plus clients she sees virtually, then you can visit JOBTALKLLC.com to schedule a free intro call. But if you don't have time for counseling, our listeners can get one of Crystal's online courses for 50% off using the code Seacoast Stories 50 at checkout. That's Seacoast Stories 50 to get 50% off any course on subjects like building a great resume, cover letter, or LinkedIn profile. Excludes live sessions, only valid for the 4 JOBTALK Academy courses. Thank you, JOBTALK, and thank you, Samonas Realty, for supporting the show. Now back to Maddie Brandon and how she started blowing up on social media just 2 years ago.
Yeah, Yeah, so I fell into what's called user-generated content. I know for a fact it wasn't as recognized back then, but basically I just started using, I think it was mostly on TikTok for me, and I did not have a lot of followers on TikTok, but I just started learning that I can be doing kind of this stuff that I was doing for Smuttynose with content creation for brands, where it wasn't necessarily that I had to post, but creating the content for them. And I thought that that was really cool because there was always like brand photographers where like the brands would hire the photographer. You're getting great like photography from them. But like in the world where short form video has increased in value substantially, and that's like what brands need to be focusing on in terms of like what their content is, I fell into the world of user-generated content where brands would pay you a decent amount to create content with their product for them to then post on their account.
Okay. Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. So one of the ones at that time was a gallon water bottle brand that I just happened to have reach out to me. And
You're one of those people that carries a gallon water bottle. I'm sorry, you're such a tool.
do I look
Go
like
on.
I'm someone who carries around, like I could barely even carry this thing. It was made out of like stainless steel. It was so heavy. But anyways, they reached out to me for some random reason, which is in many cases how things have started for working with brands for me. They were like, hey, we're looking for someone who's going to produce like X amount of videos per month using our water bottle in like a way that would be relatable or like is a good representation of like the lifestyle that these would fit into. So that looked like bringing it to the gym, bringing it out fishing. Like I brought it like all over the place because they were trying to target like adventure and like fitness interested people.
Right.
Yeah.
And now these types of videos, these are not explicit ads on social
No.
media. It's just you're out living your life and subtly it's product placement, right? And subtly that bottle is just in your video.
Right. Because what brands were seeing and user generated content now has blown up. Like there are people making good money from doing user generated content. But yes, at the time, what was happening was brands were noticing that their content and their social efforts weren't going very well because people were tired of like, they're not going to watch a video that just talks about a water bottle, but they might watch a video that's of a girl showing how you can put like your cell phone in the water bottle. It had like a cover. Like they might watch how putting your phone in this water bottle cover and bringing it to the gym allows you to maybe not lose your phone at the gym. Like something more like, oh, like that's kind of cool. I've never seen something like that. Like you're showing it in action, but you're not like, buy it. You're like, look at this cool water bottle and I'm bringing it to the gym.
Okay. So you just started receiving just random DMs.
Right. Yeah. And I had a couple of brands that I was doing that like monthly for. And then once I got the promotion to Island District, I would say I pumped the brakes on that stuff a little bit just because like workload and everything.
Yeah. Island District is a local
canned cocktail company.
Right.
Yeah. So Smuttynose owns Island District Cocktails, canned cocktail company. So I was promoted to their brand manager and I kind of oversaw like their social media efforts and their influencer partnerships and like all of that. So at that point, I kind of pumped the brakes on like my outside side hustles a little bit. But towards the end, that's when I started working with like Airbnbs and brands and stuff again.
So at Island District, it was part of your job description to then go work with like influencers and influencer marketing. Just take me into like those kinds of conversations and how you went about identifying people that you might want to target to promote Smuttynose and Island District, and then just like take me into those conversations.
Yeah. So I loved that part of my role because it was fun to be able to work with and collaborate with other content creators, being one myself. So I had the unique opportunity to kind of see it from both sides. Influencer and content creator marketing for Smuttynose and Island District were hugely successful. Island District was a very young brand, didn't have a lot of brand awareness. We were able to not only do local brand partnerships, which is was also incredibly valuable, but we worked with a number of like micro influencers, they call it, with smaller audiences, but like incredibly dedicated followers. Cause like when someone with 1 million followers says, try this canned cocktail, it's not going to be as powerful as like someone that you consider more closely like a friend or someone that like you kind of relate to more. So we worked with like 20 content creators at least in what we were calling like our ambassador program. And they would help us create content for Island District and also like promote it on social.
Okay. Like local people?
No. Well, so yeah, most of them were like at least in the places that we were selling the product, of course, because we were hoping that their audiences, especially if their audiences were attached to like the location that they were based, would then drive them to go in and like buy Island District from the shelf.
Gotcha. Now, without disclosing too much or naming any names, I don't think any of us really have an idea about like the kind of money that we're talking about here that social media influencers get. Just take me into the behind the scenes money negotiations, all of that.
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like they used to try to put like an equation on it where you like took your follower count and then your engagement rate, and then it would kind of help you decide how much to charge.
Engagement rate. That's a statistic I've never heard.
Engagement rate is like really valuable for brands because you don't want someone who just has, let's say they have a bunch of fake followers where they get like 2 likes on their video. Like you're not going to hire someone like that. So that's like a big factor. So they used to try to have it be like more of an equation. But now I think that if you're able to show like the quality of your content in a portfolio and like you're obviously creating like really, really high quality, there's creative direction involved. And like you're able to show how those videos have performed even better. I think that you can kind of go off of that. But in terms of how much people charge, I think it varies substantially. I think it used to be attached to like your following more than it is now. But there was one time that I reached out for Island District to someone that had 1 million followers. It might have even be a little bit more than that. And I had to take a mental health walk because of what they quoted me for one TikTok. Do you want to know?
How much?
$100,000.
God.
And I had no idea people were making that kind of money at the time. I had no idea. She must have had more than that. It must have been like 3 million followers. But yeah, she was charging $100,000. Can you even imagine?
That's crazy. I mean, 30-second TV commercials cost less than that.
Correct. Yeah. So, but she was someone that must have been able to prove the conversions that her content, was able to get.
I assume you said no to that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We didn't have that kind of money. But again, so I had to go take a mental health walk with the brewery dog that day because I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's life now.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Now, what about some of these micro influencers that you're dealing with? How much are they charging per video?
Yeah, at the time, I think it was anywhere between like $100 to like $400 for like a video that they not only created for us and would send to us, but also like post to their account as well. I would say like things change so much and shift so much. It's hard. Like I wouldn't want someone like hearing that and being like, oh, that's what I'm going to charge. I think it really just depends on like, okay, you start out as a beginner, you charge a certain amount. You're able to then prove yourself more, improve the quality of your content that you're producing. And you kind of just learn that if you quote a brand that reaches out and they say, yeah, that sounds good, you're not charging enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in my opinion.
Why?
If you know that your work is really good, and I think that this goes for a lot of people, a lot of creatives, yes, you never want to charge so much that you're being like cocky or like your ego is involved. You're like, oh, I'm the best one out there. But when it comes to like brands, like it's very hard to know what everyone else is charging. There's websites that try to like almost be like a glass door for content creators. They exist. I just don't think that they're that accurate. And like a lot of people do stuff for free. So that like definitely doesn't help things. But yeah, I think that if you have a brand reach out and you quote them from something and there's no negotiation that happens, either they immediately see your value in that number. They just don't care. And they're like, sure, sounds good. But I think that for you to learn what you should be charging, there needs to be that negotiation. I seek that out a little bit.
So you send your packages and pricing and they say no. Then do you go back and open a negotiation window?
It depends how bad I want it.
Okay.
I would say like when I was first beginning, I was terrified of like having someone turn away. And I was getting like most of my work then with brands or like whoever it was were smaller companies. So like a lot of times that's where you'll fall into people being like, oh, we only had like $50, which is please never do anything for $50. But yeah, like, so I was just like terrified of having like whatever opportunity not work out because of what I was pricing myself at. But now that I've been doing this for long enough and I know what I've charged before, I know the feedback that I've gotten from the work that I've done for these brands and companies, like I know that I'm charging what I am worth. Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard. I still hear people that are doing the exact same, I would say, level of work as me and are charging way too little or they're charging way too much. But I think that you just kind of get a feel for things as you take more and more jobs, honestly.
Yeah. Pricing yourself in content creation and in anything, in any freelance is so difficult to do because then you're getting into what am I worth? There's all sorts of psychological components that come into it too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it can be tricky too, because there's that pressure of making sure that, I mean, if you're a good person, you want that money to go. You want to make that investment that they're having in you be worth it for them. I don't think anyone walks away from doing any service-based job and is like, oh, well, I don't really care if they get value out of this or not. I got their money. I'm going to run away. Like there is like a lot of pressure that, okay, they said yes, time to perform, time to like make sure that my content's going to be what I've promised it will be for them. And that is tricky because social media is crazy and like something that's worked for you in the past might not work this time. And I think just honestly making sure that those expectations are out there in the beginning and knowing that your contract doesn't promise any like performance is like a huge part too. But if you are able to show those things in like a case study way, you are able to show like whether conversions or ad performance and stuff like that, you'll have a lot easier time charging more. Yeah.
One of the big brands that you started working with a few years ago, perhaps you're most known for, is Airbnb.
Yeah.
How did that come about? So
I haven't worked with Airbnb, like the actual brand Airbnb, but I've worked with Airbnb like properties. So that kind of started when I was working at Island District. And it was around the time that I was doing all the content creation and influencer partnerships. And I really realized that everything that these people are doing and are making money from is exactly what I do in-house. And so why don't I start seeking out those opportunities outside of it when I have the capacity to do so? The Airbnb stuff kind of happened randomly, but I wanted to visit my friends down in Connecticut, my home friends, and I wanted to be special, but I didn't have the money to shell out on like some fancy Airbnb. So I was like, I think that providing really high quality content for a place might at least discount a stay for us. So I finessed my way into this and I ended up like bartering with this host for a stay. And I thought that was the coolest thing. It's like, wow, like I was able to like treat my friends to this like really cool lake house just in exchange for things I already loved doing. And I thought that that was so cool. And that kind of progressed from there to getting, more inquiries. I think like maybe I pitched to a couple more properties and when you're working for free, it's like easy to find jobs. So that's how it started. But then after maybe like two more, I started getting asked for like paid jobs. And that was so incredible. I had no idea that I would actually like be able to make money on top of like working with Airbnbs. But the content that I was producing was valuable for like their listings and their social media. And like a lot of hosts might be a little bit older and not as good at social media, or care to be better at it. So I kind of like filled in those gaps for them, and I started getting paid Airbnb partnerships, which was really cool.
Yeah. And again, that's another thing travel, Airbnbs, nature, all of this stuff plays with the imagination and plays so well on social media. And so the videos that you have from your Airbnb stays are truly incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And like the first 2 months or so that I was doing these, like luckily I worked like hybrid. So I was like working remote throughout the day. And I'm not just saying that, like I actually was. Like I would go somewhere like 3-hour drive to somewhere in Vermont, like early on like a Monday or something. Take some photos if I had time, but then do my work for my job. And then once like it was 5 p.m., I was off the laptop, like shooting this Airbnb, and I would just repeat it the next day and then drive 3 hours straight to the office on Wednesday.
Wow.
But it was like, I was like, wow, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Like, this is like the dream. This is like, if I can do this full time, how cool.
Why was it the dream?
Because I think that after I never got that chance to like go and live in California or like go and like start that new cool story for myself, like I always still kind of craved traveling and like having that adventurous lifestyle. And so I fall into Airbnbs where I can actually help these hosts by like creating content for them. But in return, I get a place to stay that's pretty cool, and I'm able to travel with like a very small budget. I did not have a lot of money to do this. So yeah.
Thanks to your Airbnb work, you did grow your following a lot. I think as we're talking right now, your Instagram following is like between 13 and 14,000. What is it like having that type of following and the pressure that comes with that? Because that's a lot of people who have eyeballs on you and want to watch your stuff. As my accounts have grown, I'm being more mindful, knowing that I'm reaching more people. And it's like, oh, I can't just do and say anything anymore, right. Be as unhinged as I originally was, because now I actually have a voice that matters and that people turn to.
Yeah, it was really hard, honestly. Like, I remember feeling like, what the heck? Like, I really wanted this, but now it's kind of like a blessing and a curse, because yeah, I was for so long able to be a lot more unfiltered. My content didn't need to be perfect. That was the biggest thing, is like the pressure of like feeling like every post had to be the best post that I put out. And I never had felt like that before. And I think that's when people are like, I wish I could just delete social media, because it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be so much pressure for every post. That's not fun anymore. But yeah, I honestly forget that I have that following until it comes to like the pressure to make sure that every post is like what they want to see. And that was the biggest shift. It used to be what I want to post. And then it was, what do people want to see? And that was like a little bit harder. You got to like think a little bit more. Maybe it's like you get tired of what you're posting, because like you do need to like love what you're posting. And you evolve as
a person as
right.
well. You know, what used to light you up posting wise, maybe not anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I should say that you did eventually leave Island District, and then you went on just to do all of your own stuff. So with your personal brand, and then with content creation for other brands, you've got a lot of stuff going on. So at the beginning of this year, you decided to do all of these things yourself. Why, or what exactly was the vision that you had for what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I think it's been almost 2 years now since I left Island District and like took the leap. And that was literally, that decision was because I was starting to get these inquiries that I was not going to be able to do an honest job with Island District if I stayed, because I was starting to get these inquiries and I would either have to say no to all of those opportunities or I needed to leave. I am very much so not a build the net person and then jump. So I left and then I built the net. And I would say that net had a lot of holes, but she was there eventually.
This is the real Maddie. I love this guy. This is great.
But yeah, so that started out as a business partnership with my friend Will. And he had already been in the world of Airbnb photography. He was extremely talented. I met him through, actually, funny enough, he did some work for Smuttynose when I was like in charge of their social. So that's where that like kind of friendship started. And so we got to talking about what I was doing with Airbnbs and kind of connected on that because it was both an interest of ours. And we started kind of throwing around the idea of maybe starting something together. I did not at the time have confidence to do this on my own. There was no shot that I was going to leave Island District. I liked my job. That's the unique thing about that is a lot of people leave their jobs because they didn't like what they were doing. Like I did not have that experience. I liked my job, but I liked these opportunities more. So eventually I had the added confidence of having someone who had already been out on his own for a number of years pretty successfully. And so I took the leap. We started our business Guest House and we specialized in brands, Airbnbs, and tourism and did that for 9 months. And we were like all over the place. It was really cool. And I still am like shocked by like the resorts and stuff that we were hired for. And like I got to go up in a helicopter. Wow. It was so cool.
Like where did you go?
So there was this one in Canada called Auberge de la. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to stop right there.
Yeah,
I do not have the French. But anyways, it was like this really cool lakefront resort property. And we were like in charge of getting not only the hospitality side, like the bedrooms and stuff, but also like the food, the restaurant, their helicopter service, and then like their other activities, like they had fat bikes. And like being in charge of something like that is so freaking cool because you're able to like have the story of this place and what makes that resort so awesome. And then like translate that in a creative way that captures it all and shows like it in action because that's ultimately like what people want to see at this point. They don't just want to see an empty room. They want to see, oh, like you can literally hire a helicopter to get to this resort. So like, I'm still shocked that like I was a part of projects like that. And I owe a lot to that. I owe a lot of that to having a business partner because I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that alone. So
why didn't you have the confidence in yourself?
I think I just wasn't ready yet as a creative. I don't think I had done enough like big jobs yet or anything like that. And a lot of that confidence comes from like doing enough jobs to know that like you're where you're at to be able to charge a lot or enough to like make a living and everything. And I also knew very little about owning a business. So yeah, just honestly, just having someone else where he was on his own and was surviving was enough to like make me feel better about the whole thing. So it was definitely a necessary step for me to get out of my 9 to 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that experience from owning the business with him gave you the experience you needed to actually have your own businesses. So let's talk about those. All right. We have Creator Outpost, Kindling Studio, and then just your personal brand, Maddie Brandon as well. Let's talk about Creator Outpost. What is it?
Okay. So Creator Outpost kind of came out of like, once I decided that I was ready to not just be a full-time content creator anymore. It was a lot of travel. It was a lot of adventure, which was awesome. But I just ultimately felt like I needed a shift. It was just getting to be a little bit too much. I have a boyfriend and dog at home that I missed a lot whenever I had to leave. So Creator Outpost was born out of my frustrations with there was so much at the time that I was a full-time content creator. There was so much noise on how to grow, how to work with brands, how to charge more, like all of this, like how to please the algorithm. There was like nothing. When I was in like trying to learn how to own my own business, there was like nothing that was directly talked about for content creators on client experience. There was like nothing on like how to actually like have systems in your content creation business. I look at photographers, like wedding photographers. There is so much for them. There's so much. There's so many people offering to set up your like CRM and like workflows and like all of this and like having a Notion organizer. I had not found anything when I was in the depths of trying to figure my shit out as a newly owner of a business. I couldn't find anything that was customized to content creators. And where like I wouldn't have had to tweak like a ton of stuff to make it work for me. So anyways, Creator Outpost was born out of my frustrations with that and just being in a circle of other like-minded content creators at the time who also were questioning all of these things, like how are we supposed to organize all of our content? How are we supposed to stay consistent? And like all of these things. I was like, hey, I think I might start something as I continue to get better with content creation and get more set up as a creative entrepreneur. I think I'm going to start Creator Outpost to be that community that I wish I had of, okay, we don't just talk about how to get more followers, but we talk about what do we want to say when those followers are listening? Like, do we want to just recreate trends and like that's what we're going to be known for? Or do we want to actually be using our platforms for something a little bit more meaningful? I think I also was frustrated with that coming off of the year, just feeling like I was doing all this cool traveling. Everyone was like, whoa, what a cool life. And I was like low key struggling real hard. So I was like, we need to start being better as content creators in those ways. So Creator Outpost at this point in time is my goal is to have it be like a community of content creators that want to go about things a little bit differently, aren't so interested in just how to monetize it and how to
go viral.
Yeah, go viral and gain the most followers as possible. It was rare to find someone that was speaking those things into the world of social. So I started it. So right now it's just me posting kind of more about my outlook on how I wish content creation could be for people. And then I also have my gear shop, which that's kind of my vision for it. My vision is to have this gear shop be actual tools and resources, not so much like courses, but more like business tools. Like I've learned a lot on like onboarding new clients, let's just say. That takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I've learned that like if you can get your systems in place to send over your packages and they can select their package, sign their contract and pay their deposit all in one go. I wish I had that all last year. It would have been life-changing. The amount of emails, the amount of friction that was just a time suck as a new like business owner. But like now what my goal is for Creator Outpost is to take those things that I've learned and like developed, package them up, and then be able to offer them for people who might need them too.
Well, whenever you have these things in order, sign me up to be your first customer because I need all of that because I'm in that email and friction phase.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that my goal right now is to just like start cultivating that community. So I think one time you asked me, you were like, do you feel, what did you say? Do you feel like knowledge to do those things or something? Qualified for Creator
Did I ask you that?
Yeah.
What an asshole.
You're like, do you feel qualified to like teach other content creators on content creation? And I feel like the way that I'm doing it isn't so much I'm trying to teach you like, again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, this will make you like an insanely successful content creator. I'm more so trying to be like, hey, this part of content creation sucks. Here's what I do that like helps me and maybe it'll help you too. I'm not trying to be some expert or anything.
Yeah.
Like so many coaches are out there that have business being coaches. I'm not trying to do that. But my goal is just to, like shake the content creation world up a little bit and be like, hey, we got to stop chasing virality. We got to stop just recreating trends and like spending all our time on these trends because at the end of the day, like, what's the point?
Right.
What's the point? What are you giving back? What are you putting out there? You're spending all this time and energy on social media, but like, what are you building? Mm-hmm. Why are you
What stories are you telling?
Right.
What meaning? How are you making people feel?
Exactly.
Something that you talk about a lot on social media and in your podcast, the cringy creator.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, I had to say it, is about not giving a fuck what other people think.
Yeah.
And just getting over that self-doubt and just saying what you want to say and not caring what people think. Anyone who's created content has gone through this up and down evolution. Sometimes I care a lot. Sometimes I don't care at all. What has that been like for you?
So I would say there's that old saying that's like, some people just wear their heart on their sleeve. I wear mine on social media. If I'm going through it, you're going to know, because my content will speak directly to whatever is going on. It might not say exactly what's like happening, but it'll be like, I just posted one that was like, I have a lot of projects right now I need to get done. And I just posted one that was like, oh, like, I hope that I'm not going to let anyone down. There was like this trend, and then it's a picture of me when I was little, and it's the quote like, oh, but you're running your own business. Like, you're doing great. Like, how cool. It's like that immediately people are like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just like feeling it right now.
Yeah. I've had that happen too. That's
just
funny.
like self-development, self-growth. Like whenever I like notice like a milestone of self-growth for me, like it's going to be on the gram.
But the
cringiness,
for the people who are self-conscious about how they're perceived by, this one used to be a big one for me for some reason. The kids from high school, the kids that I haven't seen in 10 years, I still cared about what they thought. I don't care anymore. I'm now, as a yoga teacher, I'm posting some yoga stuff, which people probably think like I'm a weirdo for, but I don't care. It's my life now, and it's what I want to put out there. So for anyone who is holding themselves back out of fear of what other people might think, how do you get over that?
Well, I love this because I struggled with this a lot. And I think that like once I started, I always wanted to like post more, and I always wanted to like share more, but then like, why do you think you're so special? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yep,
why do you think you're so special that you like, do you think people really care about all that stuff? Okay. But then like you go to LA, everyone's walking around with a camera. Everyone thinks that they're like the most
Everyone's
special
walking
human.
around with a camera crew.
So anyways, I think that you said it when you were just asking me like, how do you get yourself to not care? Or you were talking about yoga and how like you at this point don't care. That's it. That's the magic, is just like deciding, even if it's not true at the time. That's what it was for me. I was like, I just don't care anymore. Meanwhile, I really cared, but pushing through that and just like posting anyways. And like, honestly, like I posted some of the most cringy things in the beginning, but because like I've always posted something cringier, like it feels easier. And yeah, like I have no shame in the game, like at this point, but it took a while. I think that for anyone that's like really struggling with it, I think that you just have to decide that what your dreams are and like what you think you're capable of is more important than anyone's opinion of you.
Fuck yes, Maddie. Let's go. And I will add that just reps, getting out of your comfort zone and just doing it, for years, honestly. Like I used to be so self-conscious, but now I've now done it to the point or so much that I don't care. And
everyone started somewhere. And again, like I'm not trying to be like some mega influencer, but like I just want to feel comfortable in my own shoes. And that translates on social media too. Like you just said, like it just has taken a lot of repetition and like a lot of feeling of I call it vulnerability hangover. I definitely did not I did not coin that term, but vulnerability hangover, when you like post something and you're like, oh, should I take this down?
Oh yeah, I felt that for sure.
But yeah, so like, I think just like going through those times of like, oh shoot, like, are people going to judge me for this post? And then like forcing yourself to just post it anyways. And then, oh, the sky didn't fall. Oh, like people might have judged me, but like shame on them. Like you just like develop a different like mindset around it, but it does take a long time.
Right. Kindling Studio.
Yes.
What's that?
Okay. So Kindling Studio was after I decided that I needed to stop traveling so much, which that decision meant that I needed to step away from that partnership because it wasn't going to be fair to my business partner, who that was his goal. So I needed to step away from that. And I had that lovely internal conflict of now what? And I was like, do I go and try to find a 9-to-5 again? Even though I just did all of this and like there has to be a reason that I went through all that. There was a lot of turmoil for like leaving the job and like all the struggle of like starting a new company or new business. You know, like I just couldn't get over this feeling of like, I cannot just have this end like this. There has to be more of this story. Like I can't just go back from something that it struggled to leave. And then like, what's that? Like that, I just did all that for nothing, it felt like. So anyways, the Kindling Studio is my creative studio that will be launched by the time that this airs. But I currently have a lot of projects going on under it. It's just like not officially known as what it is. But it is my creative studio that offers social media strategy, management, content creation, including photography, and web design and brand design. So it's a lot of different things because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a very multi-passionate individual.
Yeah.
So.
For local businesses, you do these things.
Yeah, for local businesses, not necessarily just local. I actually just wrapped up a web design project for a really cool ranger-themed cabin out in PNW. So it's more just, yes, I do have some local clients. I have a short-term rental property that I help with their like social marketing and stuff, but not necessarily just local.
Okay. I love to hear this. Now, your personal brand is undergoing an evolution right now as well, which is on brand for you. What kind of stuff do you want to be making on personal channels?
So I think naturally I've found that my account has become this bridge between, like my creative studio, the Kindling Studio is like how I'm making my money. That's like what services I'm offering. And then the Creator Outpost is more of like an extension of me and that being like, hey, this is like what I've learned through the process. I know you don't like the word journey, but through the journey.
How'd you know that?
I don't know. Yeah, I saw it somewhere.
yeah, it's true. It's oversaturated.
Anyway, so my personal brand, I believe that I do. Luckily enough, I have a great community of people who have seen me through these evolutions. And so right now I am bridging being a creative entrepreneur and then having like more of those thoughtful conversations around content and the content industry and being a content creator and just kind of showing like the behind the scenes of what that life looks like. So I'm bringing in a lot more like I have this series that I just started called Life Behind the Biz. And it's kind of bridging, hey, like I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm making a living doing this. And like, it's kind of like a day in the life, but showing a little bit more of like the real and raw that you don't see a lot.
Maddie, at the beginning of our conversation, you said that you felt like you didn't fit in when you were growing up. What do you feel now?
I think that at this point, the weight of that doesn't matter to me as much. And I think that that's come a lot from when you are going to be someone that's willing to be cringy and weird and like posting on social, you have to accept that like not everyone's going to like you and you're not probably going to fit in with every circle of life. But as long as you're good with yourself, that's ultimately what's the most meaningful and where you'll find the most joy. As long as you're good with yourself, it doesn't really matter what the fuck anyone else thinks. So yes, I think that I fit in with my circle, the people that I value the most, and that's what matters. So,
Maddie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely fantastic. We have one final question.
Okay.
We ask this same final question at the end of every episode every week, and I will ask it to you, Maddie. If you were to leave this earth tomorrow, what would you want people to remember about you?
That I wasn't afraid to be myself. That's pretty easy for me.
That's a pretty good one, Maddie. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said about Kenzie earlier, if I could place money on someone, invest in someone to crush it one day and pay me returns, I would put good money on you as well. I'm so in awe of you. I'm so inspired by you. I love following along with you in your journey. Keep up the great work, Maddie.
Thanks. You can invest if you want, though.
That's Maddie Brandon, Seacoast rising star and cringy content creator. You can follow her on Instagram at Maddie Brandon. or if you feel inspired to work with her on building your brand, website, or social media strategy, you can get in touch with Maddie at thekindlingstudio.com. Links to all of that and more are in today's show notes. Speaking of supporting good people doing good things, if you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know by leaving an honest review on Apple Podcasts or by submitting a quick rating on Spotify. Every little bit goes a long way toward accomplishing our big dreams here at Seacoast Stories. Thank you so much for listening. And if you see me around town this week, perhaps at Sea Point Beach, Three Bridges Yoga, or Throwback Brewery, please stop me and say hi. I would love to hear your story. Until next time, everybody, have a great week. Live free or die.